Okay, I've been playing Path of Exile now. I've got about 120 hours into my character, and it is time for us to do our final review, impressions, whatever you want to call it, looking back at Path of Exile, what I've learned and what I think about the game. I have done several of their fights as Turi, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, Syrianarch, and either of the worlds I've defeated. The Shaper got the better of me, but I'm still trying to learn that fight. My character, as it stands, is a level 91 character. I heard it really starts getting slow right around 95, and not everyone all the way goes to 100 every single time anyway. The build I ended up going with is a Juggernaut Marauder, which basically just boils down to me taking everything that gives me life, everything that gives me tank, everything that regenerates my life, elemental resistances, really anything tanky at all. My plan was really very simple. I took Shield Crush because I thought it sounded like a cool move because I like shields, and I took anything that makes me tankier. My whole plan was thematically, I was thinking, I'm just going to be a really tanky guy with a shield, and that was about as far as my logic went, and I learned piece by piece as I went. This has had good things, but also repercussions that have come from the fact that I decided to do my build like I can. For instance, I do absolutely zero damage to speak of. That's why anytime I kill a boss, it takes the better part of my evening. But on the bright side, I am fairly safe. But there's another way you can be safe, and that brings us to today's sponsor. Just like a guy in RuneScape looking to trim your armor, there is always somebody out there looking to prey upon your vulnerabilities. So make sure you have something at least to be protecting yourself when you are online. NordVPN makes it easy to secure your own personal data with only one click. They offer threat protection to shield yourself from malware, trackers, or any of the other issues that would be online. They even have dark web monitoring to allow you to know if somebody is out there leaking your credentials online. And of course, you can access all your favorite content even outside of the region you're in. You want to watch anime, maybe watch some shows that are only from other countries? You actually have access to that through NordVPN. And NordPass can help you keep your passwords secure as well. So say goodbye to cyber threats, say hello to new content, and get all of these benefits 100% risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee at nordvpn.com/DMDiablo4. And a big thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. So while I've been fairly safe, this game is actually about farming, which means that typically it means my build is fairly slow. So when I'm doing the map device, which is essentially nightmare dungeons in this game, and I'm running these maps over and over and over again, my build is very slow for that. But the cool thing about the game is no matter kind of what build you have, there is something that works. So I ran into the situation where I built a tanky, slow character like I'm explaining, but there happens to be one of the game modes actually works totally fine for that. You see, the version of the game mode I like is called the Blighted maps or tower defense maps. Now, let's say I wanted to run one to show you what that actually looks like. Now, in order to actually do that, I'm going to need one of the maps. Now, if I'm a solo self-find character, which is sort of like an Iron Man from RuneScape, then what I would need to do is find the map myself. But I have Chaos Orbs here, which are basically the equivalent of the currency in the game, like your gold type of currency. This is what most people use to trade. And I could find and buy one because trading is a part of this game. This is the official website. They have their own trading ability on here. I could go to maps. I could say, yes, I want a blighted map. I want it to be a tier 16. I can click search and I can find a map. Instantly, here's Blighted Dunes, 5 Chaos Orbs. I will buy that one, for instance. Now it's going to tell me that, okay, you've whispered the guy. It automatically sends out that message. I just click direct whisper and it sends a message to the guys I'm clicking on. And the first person to send me an invite means I can go trade with them. The person receives my message and sends me an invite. I head on over to teleport to their hideout, which is sort of like their main player base, their main player house, whatever you want to call it. He sends me a trade request. There, I got the exact number of dollars, basically, that he wants for this thing. The Chaos Orbs is the currency. I plop it in. He trades me over the item, and there we go. Now I have the item I wanted. So the reason I want to explain trading in this game is because it is a crucial part of what makes the game feel good. In games like these, receiving loot for your character feels very good, but there's more to it than just receiving good loot in games. When I take this map and I go farm this map, which I'll do in a moment to show you what it looks like, when I do that, I have opportunities for the map to drop me things that I could sell on the trade system in order to make more of the currency back to go buy other items. So instead of me just looking for exactly the drop I want, and if I don't get it, everything else feels bad, every item I get is an accumulation towards my goal. It's fragments, effectively, of the character or the item I'm trying to farm, because everything is more or less currency. And with a live trade system that's fairly easy to use and fairly fast, it makes the grind not feel depressing. Like in Diablo 4, if you don't get the Tempest Roar helmet, you just feel bad all day. But if all of the items and uniques you were getting, you could trade on the market to somebody else and get gold, for instance, or some kind of currency, something that was worth something, then you know I'm not wasting my time to farm these maps. Every single time you get a drop, it is the potential to be like a dopamine exciting moment, because any of them could have something that helps you towards your goal. This is an important part that I didn't realize earlier on in my review. I didn't realize how much trading adds as an additional layer to the game. It makes you feel like you're not wasting your time, almost no matter what you're doing. But back to my original point about how even a bad build like mine can find some uses. So this is the blighted maps. Now, I'm just going to run this kind of standard instead of making it absolutely crazy, because I want to be able to talk and focus on this. But these maps right here are effectively tower defense types of maps. All the damage is going to come from my towers, and this is sort of a strategic type of game. So what I'll do instead of actually fighting the monsters myself is these are the lanes, and they're going to add more and more lanes as time goes on. But what I can do is I can build these turrets. For instance, this is an empowering one, and this one is going to slow them down, and this one is going to stun them. I do a combo, so now they get stunned and slowed, so they get locked for a while. This one will be my damage, for instance, with a meteorite strike. And so now I have this area where when they walk through here, they're going to get stunned, slowed, as well as damaged. Now I got to worry about the other areas they could potentially be coming from. Okay, this is the port on which they spawn from, so I'm just going to be doing sort of the same thing around the map. This is the base I am defending. If they make it here, they have 20 units of damage that I can receive, and then GG, I lost the map, and I'm not going to be getting my rewards. Now, as I kill things, I'm going to be getting more and more currency that I can actually use to upgrade my towers. You know, you're going to notice I still do damage to the minions. You can still fight these minions yourself if you want. However, the majority of your damage later on in the map is going to come strictly from your turrets. You can also modify your maps, make them more difficult. You can even make them easier if you choose to do that. So you're not just kind of locked in to having it only one way. This is a totally normal one, so I didn't make it easier, I didn't make it harder. And it can get crazier and crazier as you get going with these maps. I mean, they're going to start sending bosses, and you can see they're already kind of making it through my turrets. And this mode is where I've spent the majority of my time in the game so far, because one, it works really well with my build, considering that my build basically has 0 damage. I can rely on the turrets to farm the things. And two, because it's actually just extremely enjoyable. I actually really like tower defense games outside of this game. I actually just like tower defense games. So when I figured out there was tower defense in it, it seemed to be a pretty nice fit for me. And the cool thing is because of the currency system I'm talking about, here's a boss, for instance, that's sneaking on through. I didn't see this other lane. Because of the way the currency system works, I can continue to use these maps and play the way I want and continually make money over and over and over again and work towards my goals, which is how I got basically what I have in the game, which is the brass dome gladiator plate, these unique items, etc., which kind of work for my build of being just as tanky as possible. And then you can see here, I failed to defend it here, so they blow up the pump, and I don't get my rewards. Now let me show you another one. So now I've used the trade system to buy another one. If I go to the stash here, I can show you I got the blighted map. Now what I'm going to do is improve the quality of this map to make it drop more loot. I'm going to make it a rare map in order to continually improve the loot quality. And then I'm going to go to this here, and these are the oils you get from the map, and I can modify the map continually by adding reduced cost of building and upgrading turrets. So now the map's a little bit easier, but I'm also going to be getting more loot. It's a little bit harder in some ways, but it's a little bit easier in building the towers, which will also give me more loot. So now I'll show this to you again. Basically, I'm walking you through the process of how I learned to do these tower defense maps, because originally I was just getting wasted every single time, and then you learn the nuance of you modify the maps to fit exactly to what your build needs. I basically have no DPS to speak of in my build, so I need to be able to have the towers be cheap and do as much damage as possible so that the towers can carry the map in order for me to farm the highest tier of the map to get the most loot possible, even with my dog shit build. So now we're going to put the map in again, and we're going to run it. And this time, because we've modified it, there are going to be more monsters to fight, so it'll be a little bit more difficult, but it's also going to be a lot easier because the cost of the turrets themselves have been reduced. I have used oils, which you get from doing the maps, in order to reduce how much the turrets cost. So now I can put them out a lot sooner, more turrets, more DPS, which will be totally fine. But the game's also going to become more complicated because now there are more monsters to end up fighting, so I'm going to have to be building a lot quicker this time than I did last time if I want to survive. The reason I'm showing you this and I'm spending so much time on the tower defense is I want you to understand my thought process when I was playing the game of going from like, wow, my character kind of sucks because I don't know what I'm doing, to finding a way that it fit not only what my character's build that I kind of had, what it ended up working for me, but also a style of game that I actually enjoyed. From what I hear, this isn't the most popular style of game. Like, not a ton of people actually even like this game mode. It seems like I'm one of kind of the odd people that actually like the tower defense stuff. However, for me, it was exactly what I wanted to do. It's basically one of the only things I really wanted to do outside bossing. I just happen to love this game mode. And you can see it's getting more and more complicated. We've got lanes everywhere at this point. I actually even died while standing there trying to upgrade stuff. And then you really got to kind of pay attention because they're all over the place. And basically what I'm trying to do is just keep them as slow as I can so that way I can have enough time to upgrade everything. And I'm doing that by locking them out with freeze and slam turrets over and over again. And then once I've got all my turrets up and they're kind of handling everything, I can just kind of go back to my base and relax and know that, okay, I can play some RuneScape or something for a few minutes and then they're going to defeat the map for me. You don't actually have to like tower defense to understand what I'm saying. Well, what I've realized through this process of finding my own niche area in Path of Exile, this is why there are so many Path of Exile, what's the word for it, fanatics. People will go down a road and find exactly their path with their style of character, their thematics of the character, their own cosmetics with the character that you can get. Where I quite like the look of my character. I think he looks like some kind of like Celestrio Knight or something. Their own style of gameplay, their own types of maps, which they modify for their own way. And then they're saving up to get exactly the items they want, etc. So people find their own area within the community and within the game that makes them feel like they're focusing on and doing exactly the type of thing they want to do. So now we just finished the very last boss on this wave here that's getting stun locked to oblivion. And just like that, it is completed. And now we have an actual like lot of rewards. There's going to be a lot of things I can pick up. All of these are chests and loot. And each time I open up one of these, I know I have a chance to get something that's actually worth some money that I can sell. For instance, this right here is worth money. That's worth money. That is definitely worth money. These are all adding towards they're contributing towards me being able to pick up my next big upgrade. So every time I'm doing this, it doesn't feel like I'm just sitting here waiting for the one time no whammies hit. All of these are contributing, and all of these are going to have some kind of value towards me getting whatever my next goal is. So even if while I'm looting this, I don't get exactly the best item in the game, or I don't get exactly the item I'm looking for, I know if I do enough of these, and I enjoy doing them anyway, because there's enough variety in the game, I can kind of pick whatever it is I really like doing. And I'm picking the tower defense thing where I can play multiple games at once. I can open up RuneScape and Woodcut or something while I'm doing this as well. Eventually, by the end of the day, I'm going to have a significant increase of wealth, which I will put towards getting my next big upgrade. So combined, what does that actually mean? It means I'm making meaningful progress on a character that is unique, fairly unique to me, and what I actually wanted to build and the theme I wanted to build it in the gameplay mode that I enjoy playing in a community that actually has trade and interaction. If you are not doing so, the solo self-find thing, you can actually, trade with the community, etc. While looking the way I want to look. The game has a lot going for it that allows you to find your own path, which is what I think feels unique about this ARPG. For me, ARPGs tend to be the thing where it's you find a build, you copy paste, and yes, that is something you sort of should do in Path of Exile. You kind of do need the builds, and I'm falling prey to not having used the build. There's things that are hard for me now, like trying to build a fight the Shaper boss. I just don't have the DPS for it. I suck, and people are telling me to change my build, and I'm stubbornly pounding my head against it, trying to be the leader anyway. And it seems very obvious. I just basically need a better build and to retweak my build. But that being said, there's a lot you can do kind of in your own way And I don't actually think, after playing this game as far as I did, that the drop off on bricking your character is as bad as I thought. I think my character was, helped out by the fact I had chat sitting there, kind of giving me advice, etc. So some people may get punished harder, but there are multiple styles of game modes, like the Blight game mode, that you can find that kind of regardless of how you ended up fucking up your character, you can still find a way to progress. And you can use the currency you get to buy basically refund orbs that then you can use to refund your skill tree, and you can rebuild your character if you need to. So it's actually, on retrospect, not quite as bad as I was originally thinking. So all of that to show you some examples of what I've been doing. So what do I actually think about the game? What is my now impression of the game after having played it? The game is like a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10, in my opinion. It's very good. The only reason I wouldn't give this game like a 10 out of 10 and be ranting and raving about being the best game ever made, etc., is because there is some things, not necessarily in the game, but outside of the game, that are required if you really want to go to the pinnacle of the game. And again, you don't really have to push to the pinnacle of the game. I've gotten decently far with only really help from chat, and they tend to argue with each other, so half the time it's not even useful anyway. But I've gotten decently far, enough that I feel decently satisfied with my first run of a character, while not really following any of these major guides or anything. However, there are a bunch of tools that definitely make your time in the game significantly better. So it does kind of make the barrier to entry to the ultimate in-game fairly high, which is one of the issues. For instance, it is very difficult to tell what your items are worth when you receive one. If I wanted to know what this item's worth, I would have to download a program called Awaken PoE, which then will show you what the prices are of these items, using sort of the API of the game. I'll go in and take a look, okay, where are these currently being traded with, etc. That way I can know. And you kind of have to do this with most of the items you get if you don't know what you're doing, which can take some time. There's also this application, which is Path of Building. This is a very useful application that will help you immensely with your build. Effectively, what you can do is you can import your build for your characters. So I have my level 91 here, and I can import my skill tree, my passives, my items, all of that types of things. And I can go back and actually look at the skill tree here. And what it's going to do is it would tell me when I hover over something exactly how much it's going to approve or degrade my build, which is immensely important so you don't make those mistakes like we were talking about earlier. Very useful tool. However, even though I knew it was going to be useful and everybody and their mom was telling me that you need to install this tool, you need to understand it, everyone uses it, and it's how you make your character good, I didn't want to, because all I wanted to do was play the game, which I think is a perfectly reasonable way to play the game. Most people that download the game, when they're just starting the game, they're not into the game so much that they want to download 3, 4, all these different programs to understand trade values, to understand how to build your character, etc., without literally ruining your character for you. A lot of people just don't want to do that because they're trying to play the game from the beginning. So that can be a barrier. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I know the PoE people would push back and say, no, it's really useful. No, that it is really useful. But for the people that just download the game, they just want to try a game, trying to get these people to install modifiers, add-ons, as well as these additional programs, which, in my opinion, are probably badly needed to make sure your in-game experience is enjoyable and to make sure you don't make these mistakes. And the problem is the mistakes you make in the beginning do tend to bite you in the ass later in the game. So the earlier you get these programs, the better your experience will be. These are going to be the barriers to entry in the game, which seems consistent with my original impression of the game, which is that if you can push past the barriers to PoE, the things that make you not interested in the game, and you force yourself through those, then the game continually opens up to you and becomes a better and better game. That is continually how I feel about Path of Exile. It's a phenomenal game. It is a extremely deep game that has a ton of content that will fit your playstyle, your thematics, exactly the type of even game modes you want to play. You can make the character exactly what you want, which is really cool in an ARPG world that makes you typically think. Everyone tells you Path of Exile, you have to copy these builds and all that, which you kind of do, but the game's not really copy-paste. I would actually argue a lot of people's experiences are very different from other people. It's both because of the game mode they choose to play, like solo self-found versus just standard game mode, like the Iron Man type of style, what kind of drops they got along the way, maybe they got more currency than another person, what little modifiers in their build they decide to change. A lot of people might use a build guide, but I don't think everyone necessarily always does it in the same way. So it actually might be a little bit more of unique experience per person than some of the other ARPGs in which there's not a lot of modifiers to change, so there's not a lot of opportunity to have your character sort of identify itself differently out of the pack. To put it shortly, Path of Exile requires a lot for you to ultimately get ultimate satisfaction out of the game. But because it requires a lot, that is a symptom of the fact that Path of Exile has a lot going on. And that's what you want in a game, like I've said before. You want a lot going on because you want to spend a lot of time in the game. Very rarely do people pick up an MMO-style game like this and think, I want this game to end as soon as possible. Path of Exile does not do that. It offers something for people that want to continually play the game. And I think I will come back to Path of Exile and play it effectively every season. Today I will be live streaming Starfield, as I am extremely excited to play Starfield. You can find a link to that down below. And that's my feelings on Path of Exile. It's a great game with a great community that I will probably be playing every season launch from now on.